Money is just stored energy. And you know what? The energy you put out into the world is the energy that you get back in. That's a simple formula. And that stored energy allows me to do really cool stuff.
Hello, and welcome to Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. This podcast is dedicated to chiropractors who are in the seasons of launching and building their practice. Join myself, Dr. Lona, and my co-host, Dr. Bobby, as we have conversations each week as it relates to building the practice of your dreams. And remember, you can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. We're here to lead you on the way.
Welcome back, team, to the Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast, where we talk about all things chiropractic, specifically all things building your chiropractic enterprise, building your chiropractic business with the amazing Dr. Lona Cook. Dr. Lona, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Bobby. How are you doing today?
I'm super well. I'm just fresh off a workout. So finished a workout, and yesterday I had this really cool experience, actually. I did a cold plunge contrast with like a warm bath. Have you done anything like that?
I lied. I did do it at Dr. Franson's house. I went straight from the cold plunge into the hot tub, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I've been cold plunging and doing ice baths for a long time now, but I never did the contrast. So yesterday I found this place near me, and it's actually a funny story, right? So I found this place, like I had a 3-hour gap in my day. So I was like, all right, I worked out in the morning, already got a 3-hour gap before I had a dinner workshop last night. So last night at 7 p.m., inside of my practice, we had a Better Results Faster workshop that we run for all of our new people that have started again. And then simultaneously at the same time, we had a dinner workshop, which was going out in our community. About 35, 36 people in this dinner workshop. And that's going out in our community, and we're generating new patients from that. So I had about a 3-hour gap. I was going to be at the dinner workshop. And I was like, all right, let me book in for one of these cold ice bath, warm contrasts. And I was there for about an hour. And, I got in the car when I finished. I'm driving to the dinner. I get to dinner, I had a shower at the place, I got changed, right, but I didn't put my shoes on, I was driving just barefoot. And then I got to the restaurant, we're doing the dinner, and I put my shoes on. And man, as I'm walking into the restaurant, I just got like this. I just paused for a minute and I'm like, woo! I was like a million miles an hour. I was like, man, I am freaking ready for this workshop. So I rocked up there and my team was already checking people in and arriving everyone. And they're like, what have you been doing? I was like, oh my goodness, you don't want to know, but we are ready, baby. Who is ready? Let's go.
That's awesome.
So it's safe to say it was a very successful dinner. We had a lot of sign-ups, a lot of new patients coming in the office. So we had a fabulous night last night.
That sounds awesome. I wish I would have gotten to see it myself. Yeah.
So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go into a series over the course of our next episodes in this podcast, and we're going to be tackling a topic which in some circles can be a controversial, almost taboo topic. But I know between you and I, Lona, and in our circles, it's absolutely a topic that you need to embrace wholeheartedly if you want to have full-rounded success in your chiropractic office and, quite frankly, full-rounded success in your life. And the topic that we're talking about, guys, and we're going to be really doing a deep dive on this and unpacking across multiple episodes now because you need to get this right. That is the topic of money, right? Woo-hoo! We're talking about money, baby. How do we, at the end of the day, we're in a business. We're not in a charity, right? And the more profitable your business is, the better that you can actually invest in it and give back and offer a better quality service and better quality care and better quality team and systems and training and equipment and experience. The list goes on and on and on for the people that are coming into your practice, both practice members and team members. So Lona, I'm super excited to be unpacking this now. We're going to be talking all things about how do you get your margins right? How do you get your financial plans right? How do you make sure there's good profitability inside of your practice? We're going to be over upcoming episodes breaking down a money metrics sheet so you can cross-reference. So a lot of doctors don't know how much of my overhead should go to my rent, right? Or if I own the building, towards the payment of the building. How much should go towards staff? How much should go towards marketing? How much should go towards indirect costs on my payroll? And we usually just kind of like, make these decisions based on gut, but we really want to break this down for you guys so you can do it right from the beginning. Or if you're in practice already, you can get it right and you can make sure that it gets more profitable every single year from here on moving forward. So Dr. Lona, why don't you take us through money? I know we're going to start on the high end of it. Like, what is money? I know sometimes we're not taught it at school, that's for sure, right? But why don't you take us through thoughts on money? where's a great starting point for all of us to begin as we start to tackle the subject?
I would love to. So first I want to tell you, a book that was transformational for me was something called the Little Money Bible. And what it gets into is understanding money as energy and the energetics behind how we place value in the form of currency, but really it's just an energetic exchange. And so many of us need to rewire what we've learned about money and maybe habits that we were surrounded by as children, some of them being positive, some of them probably not being so supportive of a very abundant life and abundant thought process around what money represents. And so, probably an action step right now as you're listening to this is just to reflect on, what value was placed on money that I grew up with, and is it something that I'd want to carry forward? And so auditing our minds about money is certainly an important part to recognize when you're, starting your first business, recognizing that you are exchanging value. And we're going to get into that. And the form of exchange is through the exchange of money. So we're going to provide great care and we're going to do something that is most likely life-changing for this person. And so how do you quantify what that value should be? And Bobby, I know you've got an exercise you're going to share with us, but recognizing that because we're in business, we set up an exchange, and that exchange is going to come in the form of being able to accept a monetary exchange for what we deliver. And so when we can get out of our head about, all of our background in money and instead recognize when I deliver excellent service, there should be an exchange there. There always is an exchange there. And if I don't set that up properly, even if I'm delivering excellent service, they're going to start to pay me in compliments and banana bread and all these things. So it's almost like a universal law that there will be energetic exchange. We're trying to capture it because we are in business, and that needs to come in the form of whatever currency we're working in. So not getting all twisted up about money being evil or money being, something like that. It's just a form of exchange. Is a great place to start.
Yep, 100%. I have no dramas at all to say I absolutely love cash, love money. Why? Really simple. Money is just stored energy. And you know what? The energy you put out into the world is the energy that you get back in. That's a simple formula. And that stored energy allows me to do really cool stuff, right? And when I say really cool stuff, it's hire world-class people. It's invest in world-class marketing. It's build world-class systems. It's to build an amazing practice. Our fit out of our practice, when you walk into that practice, it's like a 5-star hotel. It's like freaking top-end stuff. We've got like terrazzo tiles everywhere. We've got, marble on all the bench tops. We've got the curved walls, all the fancy stuff in our premier practice. And the reality is when we walk in there, right, that's a representation for me of chiropractic. People look at that and they judge chiropractic based on how our office looks. We can only do things like that if we get our money metrics set up right, plus more. So money, guys, really is just stored energy. And the energy that you put out into the world is directly proportional to the energy that you'll get back in. That's the formula of it. Really plain and simple, right? So here's the way that I look at this. It's so interesting because really I want to talk more value rather than money, because it's this perceived value that we hold on things. And often as a chiropractor coming out of school, most of us have a limiting belief around the value that our adjustments hold. So if you were to say to someone, what's an adjustment worth? They might say to you, $50, $60, $70. Some say to you, it's priceless, but we've got to put a monetary value on it, right? Most of us have difficulty charging and saying to somebody, all right, hey, Lona, here's how much it's going to cost you, especially in those early days. But then at the same time, you'll turn around and you'll look at, all right, well, every year some people, or every 2 years most people, this is what the data tells us, will invest $2,500, $3,000 to get a new mobile phone, right? And usually when they get a new mobile phone, I can't remember any time that I bought anything in my life less than an iPhone. And it was always top of the range iPhone. And you know what, Lona, it's funny. Like that goes from the back of the days where I was in school studying chiropractic. So when I was like 18, 19, I was making $300 a week. That was my income. I still found money to buy it. Whatever it was at that stage, top of the range iPhone, right? 300, I think it had 300 megabytes of storage in there from memory, something like that. The next one had 500. I can't remember how it worked, but I was always every year and a half getting a new iPhone. Somehow found money for that, right? Found money for a car, found money to change the brakes in that car and the tires on that car, right? Then got a nicer car, still was studying. So it's funny because really it's value that we're talking about, and it all starts off with perceived value. The question that I ask you is, what value can you place? What value would you say an adjustment is worth? Right?
Are you asking me, Bright? Yeah, I was going to say it's priceless. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's priceless. However, we live in a world where we need to put some kind of monetization in that, right? So most people watching this or listening to this podcast, and this is my experience when I look at offices, the majority of offices are actually undercharging for their adjustments. Because here's the pricing model that we do. This is how we usually set our prices. I had someone reach out to me yesterday. I'm launching a practice, looking at money, how to get my care plan set up right. I spoke to my accountant about it. First mistake. Accountant about how to set up your fees. Sure, accountant great in terms of tax minimization, in terms of strategy and wealth building strategies that are an essential part of the team, but not the person telling you how much you should be charging for your fees, right? Because here's what most people do. They look at the area and they say, oh, there's 5 cars around me. And the average is somewhere between, they charge from like $45 adjustment to like $65 adjustment. So I'll go right in the middle on the low side. Maybe I'll charge $50 an adjustment. And that's how we set our fees, right? And so I was taught this exercise, and that's what you're alluding to before, Lona. And this exercise, I was in my final year of chiropractic school. And I was taught this by the amazing Dr. Jules Lamarche. And I remember him saying, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit down and write 100 benefits, okay, minimum 100. 100 benefits, and he was actually saying it to a room, there was about 30 people in this room, 100 benefits of getting adjusted. What benefits come from that? He goes, you can get to 50 easy. You'll have to really think to get to 100, but you can get to 100 as well if you put your mind to it. So I sat down there thinking, 100, how can I get to 100, right? But if you really start listing it out, I was like, okay, obvious ones. Increased functional capacity, yes, benefit. Decreased pain, yes, benefit, right? But then I started to think deeper and I was like, increased range of motion, increased mobility, better sleep, increased energy, better relationship with spouse, better relationship with kids, better a member of society, more contribution to society, can give back more because your body and your mind is functioning at its best, right? Nervous system firing well, so better energy levels, better hope and optimism, more magnetism, right, to other people, magnetic to you, better performance in the gym, better performance in soccer, right, better performance with my spouse, better performance in all. I was like, oh my goodness, this is freaking easy. I tell you what, I got to 100 benefits very, very quickly. And then when you zoom out of that page and you look at these 100 benefits of getting adjusted and you go, okay, how much am I charging for this? 65 at the time was $65. I think $70 we were charging for an adjustment. I was like, $70 and you get all this. Sign me up, baby. And there I was every year paying $2,500 for an iPhone. Right? So I'd love to hear.
That right there, for everyone that's listening, take him up on what he just offered there. Sit down, write out your 100 benefits. Like this is where the transformation happens in your mind of maybe you're feeling that uncomfortable, like I'm about to open or I just opened and money conversations still make me nervous. When you start to really own how powerful chiropractic is and the value that and the simplicity and the elegance of an adjustment and what that does for somebody, it's like, man, it is just profound, and the value that is stored in that. Now, when you walk in to do your report of findings and to talk through a care plan and financial plan with someone, it is you're coming in with a whole different energy about you, and that is part of the value exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing I recommend everyone do. So you really, in your heart and your head, get anchored to what it is that you actually do and the worth of that, right? Because I'm going to go ahead here and say that 95% of chiropractic offices are actually drastically undercharging and their margins are too thin, right? Margins are too thin, and so we always live in this hope from week to week and this expectation of it's going to get busy, and then when it gets to this level, there'll be more money, and then they start investing in other things. They end up in this position where there's either the same or less, right? Because the way that they invest and grow isn't in the right areas or isn't proportional, and most people's margins are too thin. So I know we're going to unpack in a second financial plans, Lona. I'm going to ask you to walk us through, separate a care plan from a financial plan. How do you guys build financial plans? What recommendation advice would you give to us about financial plans and getting this right? And as you do that, I want you to keep this in mind. You ready? You look around society, everywhere I look. Right now I'm in my office here and I'm looking at multiple things in my office, right? Here's a great example of this. I've got this phone case here. So I'm not sure, Lona, I know you can see this. You guys might be able to see this if you're watching this online. I've got this phone case here, okay? It's just a plastic, ordinary phone case. Here's my experience with this. I got a new phone. I don't know how much it cost me, but I wanted to protect the phone. So I go to the phone case shop and they go, I'll give you a phone case. Here it is. It's a plastic phone case. I'm bending it right now, guys. It's very easy. It's a cheap piece of plastic. How much do you reckon it cost them to make this phone case, Lona?
Probably less than $1.
Probably less than $1. I agree. I was going to say $1, maybe $2 max, right? Guess how much they sold this phone case to me plus a screen protector in the back and front of the phone for?
$50.
$50, you guess?
Yeah.
All right. I know you're guessing in US dollars. I actually paid $129 Australian for the full setup, which is roughly about $90 US. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So think about that margin, guys. Right? It cost them less than $1, and they're selling it for $90+. Now I can give you multiple examples of this. Phone providers, right? It costs the phone provider nothing to add an extra phone to the network, right? They charge my wife an extra $30 a month every single month as an extra provider to that network, right? I can give you example after example after example. Here on my desk, I've got this this glass, this big kind of, it's like a Stein glass. It's like half a liter, right? And that glass was sold for $32. Probably cost them $2.50 to make that glass, right? I'm looking here at a cap. I've got a cap on my table as well. That cap cost $50 here in Australia to buy it. Probably cost them $5 to make that cap, right? Look around left, right, and center, and you start to see, guys, that the margins and the markups on things that are profitable need to be big, and they should be big, right? And you've got to be comfortable with that, because the bigger the margin, the more that you can actually gain profitability and put that back into your business so you can deliver a better service and deliver, at the end of the day, better outcomes. It leads to better outcomes for people. You've got to be comfortable with money. So in chiropractic, the way that we collect money primarily is through our care plans, right? It's through our financial plans go alongside our care plans. So Lona, why don't you take us through what are some best practices around that? So why don't you take us through what's the difference between a care plan and a financial plan, right? And then what's some tips and advice you would give about how do I structure my financial plans? How do I structure the cost of my adjustments? How do I work out, all right, what is the kind of right place to charge? What advice would you give about that?
Yeah. So let's just put our chiropractic hat back on. And, when you're putting down on paper the path, like the care plan or the knowledge that you want to share with the patient of how you're going to go from they're new in the office, you listened and had the consultation and then did your exam and gathered all the resources to be able to give them an educated care plan, because that's really what our day 1 and day 2 is about, is collecting that information so that we can have a very connected conversation about the path that they're going to need to walk in order to hit the goals that they have. That's the care plan part. The care plan part is taking that chiropractic hat and putting it down on paper and giving them visuals to understand like the frequency of adjustments and the number of weeks that that's going to happen over, where the reevals are going to happen. And you may use different language than Bobby and I use, but essentially you're walking them through what they're going to need to do and how often they're going to need to be here. And if you can give them a set number of visits over a set amount of time, that is the ask for the care plan, right? And that translates to a financial plan. So the financial plan is the way that they're going to access that care. They know that there's going to be a value exchange there. They know that there is going to be a way that they have to pay for it. And maybe there's third party involved in that, depending on what part of the world you practice in. And if you're submitting to insurance, sure, maybe a third party kicks in something for that. But there is still an adjustment fee. And if you're doing a care plan, likely there's also an exchange between them with your front CAs as far as like paying in full or splitting it up into monthly payments. So the goal, you guys, is the more simplistic we can get these conversations as far as like number of visits over a set amount of time and option A or B and how you're going to handle the financial part, so that there's not so many decisions for them to make. It's going to lead them to a cleaner understanding of what you're asking them to do and how they're going to engage and make the financial decision, because they know there's a financial decision to be made. You just need to walk it out for them in a clean, easy to understand, can make a decision and move on with getting their results that they're after. That's what they're really there for, right? And so that's where we kind of get really confused in chiropractic, I think, many times because we like maybe provide too many examples and too many options, and then they're just walking out and not buying because there's too many ways that they could, well, I could submit to my insurance, or I could pay in full, or I could pay monthly, or I guess I don't even know how many times a week I'm coming in, and we make it all mucky, and then we wonder why the person doesn't actually execute on it. And I think a lot of it is that we lack simplicity around both parts of that. So hopefully I answered that question there, Bobby. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, no, totally. And it really brought up something for me. So I would say, if you're listening to this, guys, here's rule number 1. This is the first rule that you should imprint in your mind now. You ready? And the rule is never, ever x-ray somebody's wallet. Okay? So in other words, never x-ray make an assumption about what this person can afford and then start building care plans about what you feel or what you think that they can afford. I can give you countless examples of where I've sidestepped with this, and people, let's explore, I can't afford that, I can't do that, and then they drive out there in a Range Rover, right? So never, ever estimate, never x-ray somebody's wallet. That's the first starting point, all right? Now, I love how you said, let's put our doctor cap on, because we've got to separate the clinical side from the business side. Now, in the Remarkable Practice, we talk about in the report of findings how there's 4 agreements that you need to go through, right? In the report, there's 4 agreements that we need to reach. And the agreements need to happen in this order. You ready? First thing, we need to agree on the problem. So we need to be looking at somebody's x-rays or findings, and we need to get on the same page. That person agrees, hey, that's the problem. Wow, I get it, doctor. I can see phase 2 subluxation. No wonder I've been having these symptoms. We've got to get on the same page around the problem. Then number 2, we've got to agree on the goals / the solution. So you told me yesterday, Lona, that your goals were A, you want to find the cause of the issue, and you want to start getting some relief and improving the symptoms. Is that right? Are those still your immediate goals? Right? And then
yes.
I'll say, yes. Right? And then I'll go, okay. And then you said medium to long term, you actually want to address the underlying cause of the issue, get your body healthy and strong, and create a long-term solution so you can keep thriving, keeping up with the kids, keep running multiple successful businesses, and keep thriving and smashing in life. Is that right, Lona? Those 2 are your goals?
100%.
Cool. So now we're on the same page about the second agreement, which is the goals, right? And the solution. Then number 3, we need to agree on what's called the path, which is time and energy. So how long is it going to take for her to reach those goals? This is your care plan, all right? And how many adjustments is she going to need? So we will do a initial intensive phase of care that will last for the first 3 to 4 months. She's getting adjusted frequently, multiple times a week over that period of time. Now, only once she understands all those things, so once she understands the problem, we're on the same page around the goal, we've agreed on the time, how long that's going to take, and the energy, what's the adjustment protocols required. Only at that point do we move on to the financial agreement, which is agreement number 4, agree on the financial plan, right? So I used to, in my mind, when I'm going through report of findings, be cool. And then when I get to the money part, I'd be a little bit like, oh, okay, so the cost of the adjustment loaner is this. Like I used to kind of get a little bit funny at that point, okay? Instead, what I realized is if you get those first 3 agreements right, so repeating the problem, the goals / the solution, the path, which is time and energy, how long it's going to take, how many adjustments they need, then the actual 4th agreement, which is the money, is easy, right? The money part is just how do we stay in fair exchange, okay? And remember this for your next few reporter findings. These same people that you're giving a recommendation to, that maybe you x-rayed their wallet, a year and a half ago, here in Australia, in the US it's a bit different, here in Oz, they were paying $1.50 for a litre of fuel. 1.5 to 2 years later, right now here in Australia, they're paying $2.60 for a litre of fuel. That's almost double the price, right? 10 years ago, they were paying here in Australia $5 to $7 for a pack of cigarettes. Right now, they're paying $55 to $60 for a pack of cigarettes. Do you think there's less smokers or less people driving on the road?
I don't know. I'm curious what you're going to say next.
Let me tell you the answer. There is no less people. In fact, there's more people driving on the road. Traffic here where I live in Sydney is crazier than ever before. The amount of people smoking cigarettes is not less. It's exactly the same, right? So what that tells you is people will find money for things that's important to them. And if you go through your report of findings and you reach those agreements first, that builds value, and money is just how do we stay in fair exchange. Simple, right?
Yeah, so your cigarettes blow my mind.
Yeah, that's how much they're not, right? And then I don't smoke, but they used to be like a pack of 30, I think, and then they go into a pack of 25 and a pack of 20. So they're shrinking the pack amounts, but they're lifting the price up more and more, right? Consistently. So, yeah, it's crazy. Like, we're paying, like, I will go, and yesterday I filled up fuel for $2.50 a litre. A few weeks ago, I filled up fuel for $2.10 a litre. It's like, did I stop filling up fuel? No, I didn't. Did I start driving less? No, I didn't, right? I just found the resources. And
Right.
everyone else seems to do that as well. So people can't afford everything that they want, but they can afford anything that they want, right? So on that, I'd love for you to just give us something tangible as well. So financial plans. Okay, do you recommend, do we have, I know next podcast we're going to go into the breakdown of like what percentage, how you should charge, what percentage should go to your rent, what percentage should go to your marketing, all those things. But tell us now, financial plans. Do you have options? Do you have, pay in full option and then the monthly breakdown and auto direct debit? Like, what's some advice about when I'm putting together my financial plans?
Yep. So, I mean, first of all, systems around money in your office is probably a whole nother podcast we could do. But for instance, when we check out on a day 2, so on our report of findings, in the room, the doctor's introduced, yes, the path as far as number of visits and when the reevals are going to happen. And then they go over the 2 options. So there's generally a pay in full option and a break it into like a couple of payments, or 3 payments is usually like the only option, but we only give 2 at once. So we're always trying to just give 2 options so that we're not giving them an overwhelming amount. So for most new patients in our office, they're either going to start with a 24 visit plan or a 36 visit plan in our offices. And then accordingly to that, they have a financial option. And so when they go up to the front, one of the things that we talk about is like in the room, sometimes people are like quick buyers where they're like, yep, I'd like option A. They tell the doctor that already. And it's like, great, we can just move that along, do a proper handoff to the CA so that they don't have to hash it out again because they've already told us what they want. Now, however you're going to do that in your office, I'm not here to tell you that the doctor for sure has to do it or the CA for sure has to do it. But there is an element of recognizing that we don't want to rehash details that have already been decided. So when somebody has made that decision, let's just move on to the next thing so that we don't have to repeat ourselves or make a poor, sloppy handoff so that the CA doesn't know what's happening next. And then the other thing I would look at is when you're setting these up, like auto debits, Bobby, you brought that up. There are so many good companies out there to help you set up reoccurring payments and saving credit cards in patient files in an encrypted way so that this seamless movement of money can start to happen, which is really what you want to have happen, where people don't have to think about making these decisions over and over and over again. It's already decided upon, the payments are set up, the auto debit can continue in place, and it's just like a beautiful system and flow. Then we were just having this conversation in the office is like, can you imagine if every single person had to stop at the checkout CA and hand a card to them, like how slow things would really be? Even if they all intended to pay the same amount, but they just stopped and had to actually hand over that card, like it would take so much more time. So looking at your systems around how you set up money flow and the ease of the exchange is a critical part of being able to see people efficiently and not have extra hurdles to just this whole financial process.
Yep, 100%. And I just want to remind everyone that when you are going through this, so when you're giving recommendations around money to somebody, you need to make sure, first of all, that you guys are on the same page around the problem, their goals, time and energy, all right? Because that doesn't matter how long you've been in practice for, that is something that you want to slow down and make sure that you're on the same page with the person in front of you. Because if you're in scale and you're listening to this and you have multiple associates or multiple locations or a big team, okay, then you've got to make sure your margins are right. And most people are undercharging. You got to make sure that your margins are right because if you're in scale, the profitability actually from the office is where you draw your income from, right? Profitability as well as the increase in equity as the worth of the business grows. And if you've also invested in real estate, I get it, there's multiple avenues to this. But you've got to make sure that your margins are high. And so your care plans need to be priced appropriately. So you need to train your associates, you need to train your team. Whereas if you're in launch or build, you need to train yourself. That it's really, really critical that you're on the same page with the person around what is the problem, okay, that they can tell you, Dr. Bobby, to me, that looks like I'm a late phase 1 subluxation. Is that right? Yes, correct. Spot on the mark, Laura. You're a typical late phase 1. Okay, gotcha. And they have to have that moment of like, that makes sense. No wonder you've been having X, Y, Z, whatever they presented and came in with, right? Great. Now, let's talk, before we talk about the fixing, your goals. You said to me your goals were? A, B, C from yesterday. Just confirming those are your goals you want to share with us. Yes. All right. Well, let's talk about time. How long that's going to take. Okay. Agree on time. Okay. For now, we're going to focus on the first 3 or 4 months, whatever your initial intensive care plan is, and then agree on energy. So that first 3 months here, that's going to look, we're going to be seeing you 3 times a week for the first 12 weeks. So we're going to do a progress report every 12 visits to ensure that we're going in the right direction. And then a major re-exam and a re-report at visit 36, so we can compare and contrast with your first original findings, and that way make sure everything's reversing as we anticipate. After that, we'll graduate to the corrective phase of care. Your adjustments will start holding for longer. Your body will start making the long-term shifts and change. Does that make sense? Yes. Gotcha. Last thing to talk about is finances. So the cost of the adjustments is X. Okay, now you heard Dr. Lona say there's 2 options here. Option 1, you can pay the whole thing in full. If you pay the whole thing in full, you may choose to offer a discount for that, guys, or you may not, depending on how you structure it. We can talk about that later on, right? Or option 2, we can set that up in monthly automated amounts. Tell me, of those 2, Mike, which one's going to work better for you? Okay, so that last part is going to be simple and easy if you've agreed on the first 3 agreements. But if someone in their mind is still thinking, I'm not sure that's really the problem. Yeah, okay, but why is my pain in my lower back? And this guy showed me, all the stuff going on in my neck, right? How's that related to my lower back? Good luck. When you get to the finances, you will get someone saying things to you like, I've got to think about that. I'm not really sure. Let me talk to my GP. Let me talk to my wife, husband, friend, neighbor, tree lopper's friend, right? Really what they're saying is, I don't agree with the problem.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And which is why what you do on day 1 and day 2 is so critical to setting yourself up and the patient up or the practice member up to just be able to access chiropractic care, because we have to create the value for them.
Yep, 100%. I agree. All right, any final takeaways, Lona? Any action steps?
I think, Bobby, I love your 100 benefits, and you doing that work is so much between your own ears, but that's where a lot of us need to go to work before we can ask, the people that are coming into our office both to work as well as to access care. Like if we don't value it and we don't fully immerse ourselves in it, how can we ever ask someone else to walk that out? So I really want to double click on that because I think that was gold.
Well, I'll share one final thing before we leave. When I did that exercise, Gilles said, write down 100 and send them back to me. There was a room about 40 people. When I sent it back to him, what he replied to me is, only 2 people have sent it to me. Mm-hmm. So out of 40 people, you and one other person, the only ones who have sent it back to me. But that success leaves clues. Right, so if you listen to this, guys, there's your exercise. Sit down, write 100 benefits. Trust me, you'll have to work your mind and you'll get there. I guarantee it. 100 benefits of someone getting adjusted by you. Yeah. Love it. Dr. Lona, it's been a pleasure. We're going to be talking more about money in upcoming episodes. You're a rock star. Thank you so much, team. If you guys are enjoying this, like always, remember, leave us a 5-star podcast review. It's the way that we get out there and help more people. And through more people, we help chiropractic and we help our communities thrive. You guys are awesome. Lona, thank you so much. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Bobby. See you soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, please click the links in the show notes to schedule a call.